So friends, today we're here at Rutter's, which I know is an odd place to start a generator video, but no matter which generator you decide on, you're going to want to use the correct fuel for it. And so there's several different options for fuel for generators. You'll see later in the video, the one we choose is actually dual fuel, so it's capable of running off of propane as well as gasoline. But of course, gasoline is going to be kind of the primary source because it is cheaper. Just a side note about Rutter's is it's very easy to get in and out of if you're towing a trailer, so a good station to look for. But for the generator, as well as other power equipment that I don't use very often, I like to get ethanol-free gas. The ethanol soaks up water, and that's what causes you grief. So you want ethanol-free gasoline, and here at Rutter's, they've got it on a red handle, and I think Sheetz, if you get it there, it's a red handle also. But it will say ethanol-free unleaded gasoline, and here you can probably tell it's usually 90 octane. That's what we're going to be running. We're going to fill up a gallon of it here. It is a little more expensive, $4.19 as compared to regular unleaded is $3.39. But again, you're only going to be using maybe a couple gallons of it per year, so the cost is really not that much in the long term. Alright, my friends, we've finally got the box of our Champion generator here opened. You might be wondering why we chose to get this on Amazon, and a couple things about that. Originally I was looking at getting the Predator from Harbor Freight. That's what is kind of the overwhelming recommendation of everybody on the Facebook groups, unless you're one of those people that's willing to go and spend big bucks and get a Honda. But those are your two that the overwhelming majority of people were thinking. I was looking at the 1400 watt Predator. You know, I was pretty much dead set on that. Didn't really do a whole lot of research, and I just wanted something to keep the batteries charged. We're not really looking to run the AC, and this one won't run the AC either unless we get a second one and run them in parallel, which you could also do with the Predator. But for now, you know, budget is tight, so we were looking for essentially something to charge the batteries and get us through weekend boondocking types of adventures. So then a couple days ago I was at Tractor Supply and I was looking there for dog food or something, and just happened to kind of stumble across the aisle with the generators in it, and I noticed these Champion, and they had a 2000 watt Champion. It was not a dual fuel, it was just gasoline only. I think it was the same price or maybe a smidge cheaper than the 1400 watt Predator. And it was a 2000. That got my mind kind of working. And so then after seeing that, I did a little bit of research into some things on the internet because I wanted to see, are these Champions something to consider? Is it a worthwhile generator to even have? And pretty much I was set on getting the 2000 Champion from Tractor Supply. And we're going to talk here in a little bit about reasons why I chose Champion over the Predator, and price was not the only factor, but there's more. So I was doing some searches on Tractor Supply's website and Google and this, that, and the other thing, and I wasn't able to quite find on just Tractor Supply's website the exact model I was looking at the store. And so then I just Googled Champion 2000 watt generator, and I found a whole slew of places that had them, and of course Amazon was one of them. And then when I originally looked, the one on Amazon was the same price as the one on Tractor Supply, and I did eventually find through Google the same model that I seen at the store at Tractor Supply, but I also discovered the dual fuel. I'm not sure I really want to run this on propane, just because propane is a little more expensive, so I think your cost per hour of running it might be a little more with propane, but it is, I think, a good thing to have. Like a week or so went by, and I kept checking back and forth with prices and things, and I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger. I was waiting until we knew for sure we were going camping and kind of waiting until the last second to get it, essentially. But I noticed that the price on Amazon kept fluctuating. 1 minute it was $4.60 something, then I think it was $4.99, and so like big jumps in prices, which I thought was crazy. I forget exactly what we paid for this, but I will put it in the description. And it just so happened that Monday of last week I looked and it was like 50 bucks cheaper than I had ever seen it. I have no idea why. The dual fuel was cheaper than the gas only, which is kind of what threw me into the dual fuel, because I was thinking, well, it don't really matter. But again, it could be nice because we do always carry propane and we don't always carry spare gas. Upon kind of unboxing this, the first thing that I noticed is that they are very smart. In the top of the box, the first thing they put in there is your owner's manual. And I've told you this about several other things that we've gone over the years, that owner's manuals are very important. You should read it. Owner's manuals for everything. Truck, your trailer, weight distribution hitch, all that stuff. Read your owner's manuals. Because when you don't and stuff breaks, it's your own fault because you didn't read and you didn't probably do something that you were supposed to. So I'm going to look at this and try to figure out what the deal with breaking this thing in is, because I know there is a procedure, at least with the Predators I've read, that you're supposed to run it for a while with no load and then run it with some load and that kind of thing. So we're going to figure that out, and I will tell you as we move forward what that is. Comes with a funnel. I would assume that's to help put gasoline in it, because as far as I know, you won't be funneling propane into it unless you guys know how to do that in some sort of way. Friends, this does come with oil. I think I have read that some of them don't, which I find odd that they don't. But it looks like this just takes 10W30. And then, friends, the next thing that I've found is this dooflicky here, and I would assume this is your propane funnel. Looks like this here is what you connect to the generator. Like I said, this could come in handy. I do carry around a 5-pound tank as well when we're out camping. And so I'm just not sure that that would be something to use for this. But then, of course, we've got the two 20-pound bottles on the front of the rig. So again, you always have propane. So I guess if you run out of gas or whatever, as I told you in the beginning of the video, with a gasoline powered generator or all equipment that you don't really run very often, you should be running ethanol free fuel, because the ethanol stuff, it goes bad pretty quickly and it can mess up your carburetor. So like the generator for us, I really don't know how much we're going to be using it. Probably a good bit in the spring and fall, because we're going to try to boondock in the shoulder season when the kids are in school and we're just doing these short weekend trips. There's DCNR sites all around this area, and it's not worth it for us to tow very far if we're just doing like a 1 or 2 night stay. And of course, in the spring and fall, there's no need for electricity because we're not running the AC. For us, that's the purpose of the generator, is for these short weekend boondocking trips that I intend to be doing quite a bit of here soon. And then it looks like the generator is the last thing in here. Now, the first reason I like this more than the Predator is because it's lightweight and it's smaller. I think, to be honest, I think it's about the same size from a weight perspective and a dimensions perspective as the Predator 1400. So we're getting more power out of the same package. So that was appealing to me. Friends, the first thing you may notice here is that this does not come with the oil in the generator. And if you don't have oil in your engine, that just leads to problems. So you want to put the oil inside the motor. And of course, I already showed you, it takes 10W30. It says so right here also. So friends, the oil goes right in here. This is your dipstick. And this here says, and this is kind of interesting information, this thing on the fuel cap, it has a vent. You want to close the vent when you're transporting it, that way your vapors from the fuel can't evaporate. That'll be nice to have it in the truck bed, and then the truck bed won't smell like gas. But this here says you don't want to close it until the engine is cooled for at least 15 minutes. So it could vapor lock the motor, which basically means you're not going to get fuel to the carburetor. I'm going to put some oil in it, and I'm going to read the manual, and then we're going to get back to you. So friends, we should have read the owner's manual before we even took this thing out of the box, because we violated the the first step, which is use 2 people to lift it out of the box. Since I only used 1 person myself to lift it out of the box, that my warranty is probably void now, so hopefully not. But step number 2 then, of course, according to the assembly instructions, is to add 500 milliliters of oil and 10W30, as we mentioned, and this does come with the generator. It was in the top of the box. This is 0.5 liters, and I'm fairly certain that there are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. So 0.5 liters should be 500 milliliters. It gives you 16.9 ounces as a measurement also, but I mean, there's no such measurements on this jug, so we're gonna roll with it though. The funnel, as I talked about, that it comes with, this is not for funneling propane into the generator. This is for funneling the oil into, and I would assume you could use it for your gasoline then as well. And they do want you to have this on a flat level surface, which is why we're over here. We've got it on concrete. We just stick this funnel right in this hole right here and dump our oil in, and then we'll check on the dipstick and see where we're at. And it looks like we should be good to go to start it now. I did read the instructions. This dial here on the front has several settings, and it looks like that's where your choke is. It also has your gasoline and propane selector. Well, hopefully, friends, you can see she started on, I guess it was like the second pull. So this selector switch on the front, it's got your choke, your gas mode, propane, and that's also your off switch. So it's pretty nice that that's all on one convenient control. So friends, one last thing as it relates to break-in is the first 5 hours, according to the manual, are break-in hours. And what it wants you to do is kind of vary the load throughout the first 5 hours and then change the oil after that. So for us, I've got it running here. I've had it running for, I don't know, like half hour or so. And I'm just gonna kind of let it sit here with no load. And right now it's in eco mode. But if I turn that off, it gets a little louder. You can probably hear that. Now I took eco off. I'll let it run a little longer. And then I'm gonna shut her down, and the rest of the 5 hour break-in will probably be this weekend when we go camping. And like I said, we're not gonna be putting a lot of load on it, just charging batteries, so I think we should be okay. Then after this weekend, no matter what, I'm gonna change the oil. So if we put 5 hours on it, great. If not, we'll change it anyway. So friends, one of the reasons we chose this Champion generator is because it's smaller and lighter than the competition. And its smallness and size allows me to do things like what we're doing right now, where we've got bicycles and all this other junk in the bed of the truck, and I only have this small little space here, and I got to put a generator and a gas can in the bed of the truck here. Something big and bulky just isn't going to work for us, and all we're doing is charging batteries. Like, I looked into the Predator 3500, and yeah, that would be able to run our AC, which, to be honest, this weekend we may AC'd be nice. I think the nighttime temperatures are going to be okay though, so we should be all right. Eventually we are going to get some 12-volt fans to plug into the USBs in the camper. It's on my to-do list, haven't done it yet, but who would have thought in April it was going to be this warm? So friends, here we're using the generator for the first time to power the rig. The batteries were down to 1/3 this morning, so it seems like they do use an awful lot of power just in one night. But as you can tell, it is fairly quiet, and this is it in eco mode, but as soon as you plug the camper in, it throttles up. So like eco mode, it's kind of like an idle. We don't want to use a whole lot of gas, but I do know you want to vary the RPMs for break-in. Now they say you're supposed to use about 5 hours of break-in and then change the oil. I don't know if we'll run it for 5 full hours this trip, but we're definitely going to change the oil after this trip. We'll definitely exceed 5 hours in the next trip, so I want to get it changed and just be done with that procedure basically, but it seems like it's working pretty well. So friends, We have finished our first weekend of boondock camping with the generator, and I do believe that we have reached the 5 hours of required runtime for break-in. And so we are going to again consult the owner's manual before we change the oil here. We've bought a quart of full synthetic 10W30 motor oil, so that should be plenty to get the required amount in here. But the first step, according to the owner's manual here, for changing the oil is getting it up to temperature, getting it warm. And so that's what we're gonna do. The reason for that is so that all of it drains out. If it's cool, it could take a while, and the draining process of this is interesting. So let's get it fired up and get it warmed up here. We need our vent onto on. We got this on the choke button. All right, we'll let her warm up for a bit, then we're gonna get her changed. All right, so we just let it run for a few minutes here. I think it's warm. I can't imagine that you have to run it for very long in order to do this. So the directions say, essentially, and like I said, this is quite odd, but all you do is take the dipstick out, which it still has a good bit of oil on it, so we know that we were doing good as far as level the whole time. But basically, all you're doing is taking that dipstick out and dumping it into a drain pan. So it seems like kind of a clumsy procedure. So let's see what we come up with. So friends, there was definitely some junk that came out of there, as you've probably seen. To put the oil back in, we talked about earlier in the video 16.9 fluid ounces. I'll tell you, friends, whoever comes up with these measurements is just ridiculous. If you look at a quart of oil, it's 32 ounces. Well, it'd be nice and convenient if they'd make it so that you were putting 16 ounces in, which is half a quart, but no, we're 16.9. 16.9, which essentially means I got to drain this down to 15 ounces on here, but there's a line for 12 and a line for 16, and I guess somewhere in the middle, more towards the 16 mark. Anyhow, that's where we're at. You've seen me funnel some oil into this already. Nothing glamorous about it. So we're gonna put 16.9 back in here, and then next week's episode, you'll get to see the full camping adventure. We're camping at Buchanan State Forest in Pennsylvania, South Central. We had a great time. We hope you'll enjoy watching it. So that's next week's episode. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Be sure to like this video so it can spread to the world. And we'll see you next week.